chosen, the truth is that not everything that happens around you is a mere coincidence. There is a pattern that repeats, and if you observe carefully, you'll see that there are eyes always watching what you do. The opportunities that slip away at the last moment, the difficulties that seem to arise out of nowhere, the people who come close and disappear at strategic moments. The world is watching you, and it's not because you follow a common path. They don't waste time on those who are asleep. But you don't go unnoticed. There is something in you that keeps them alert. And for that reason, they monitor you. And the question you need to answer is not just why, but for what purpose. But before we continue, I have a special request. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel right now. Also, leave the number 999 in the comments to declare to the universe that you are ready to claim your power and break free from any control they try to impose on you. There's something they never wanted you to realize. They need you much more than you need them. The system was never built to empower you, but to extract everything you have to offer without you noticing. Your ideas, your energy, your ability to see beyond, these are all drained, converted, and used to sustain a structure that has never worked in your favor. But there's a problem. Time is running out. More and more chosen ones are starting to understand the game, realizing that constant surveillance is not a sign of weakness, but of power. And when this happens, the game changes. The big question is not just why they watch you, but what happens when you refuse to feed this structure? What happens when the chosen one awakens and decides they will no longer be a piece on someone else's board? They know this moment is coming, and that's why they've become obsessed. What we're about to reveal will change your view on everything, and after this, you will never see the world the same way again. The world has never treated everyone the same way. Some go unnoticed, follow a pre-established script, live without questioning. But there are those who, for some reason, could never fit in. Chosen ones don't need to declare themselves as such. The system detects them. You might try to follow a common path, but there is always something that puts you in the spotlight. Whether it's your intelligence, your resilience, your ability to see what others ignore. You don't need to intentionally stand out, because your existence is already a rare piece. And what is rare is not ignored. It's watched, studied, and whenever possible, controlled. The surveillance around you is not an accident, nor is it something new. This has been happening for centuries. The chosen have always been monitored, pursued, analyzed. The system cannot afford to let them awaken and realize their true value. That's why, from an early age, those who possess something beyond the ordinary are surrounded by disproportionate challenges, led to doubt themselves, and constantly tested. And when one of them realizes what is really happening, it's too late for the system to hide the truth. This entire structure depends on your energy to keep functioning. Have you noticed how you're always giving more than you receive? How? Your ideas, your dedication, and your effort seem to be extracted with no return? It's not a coincidence. The world was designed to operate this way, where those who carry more light serve as a source for those who have no light of their own. This happens in companies, in social groups, even in personal relationships. Have you noticed how there are always those who come close to benefit from what you have, but never contribute with the same intensity? It's a silent cycle, an invisible system that has always existed. They need your strength, but they don't want you to realize that. The obsession with monitoring you comes from the fear that, at some point, you will stop being exploited. While a chosen one believes their energy is of no value, they continue serving the purposes of others. But when they awaken, when they understand that their essence is a valuable resource, the structure collapses. What happens when an energy generator disconnects from those who consume it? What happens when a being who has always been a source of light decides they will no longer sustain those who live in the shadows? That's the real fear. They don't just want to know what you do. They want to make sure you never realize what your presence here truly means. This is not just any pursuit. It's not about simple curiosity about where you go or what you do. It goes beyond that. The system monitors those who have the potential to change the game. Their obsession is not with you as an individual, but with the impact you can make if you stop serving as a piece in the machinery. The world doesn't just fear those who think differently, but mainly those who act differently. And if you've already started questioning everything around you, then you already know why this constant surveillance exists. What they want to avoid is you becoming uncontrollable. The evidence is everywhere, but subtle enough for you to doubt it. See how those who try to step away from the system face obstacles. How those who seek independence are surrounded by difficulties that seem to appear out of nowhere. Have you noticed how, whenever you decide to take a new path, forces arise trying to pull you back? This doesn't happen with those who are irrelevant. This doesn't happen with those who have no impact. If there is resistance, if there is surveillance, it's because there is something in you that cannot be ignored. The question is no longer whether they watch you, but how long you will allow yourself to be part of this game. Chosen one, this entire structure depends on a single thing: your permission. You can continue giving your energy. You can keep being part of a system that extracts everything from you and gives little or nothing in return. Or you can decide to step out of the cycle and reclaim what has always been yours. But for that, you need to see beyond the illusion. You need to realize that they've never been watching you out of curiosity, but out of necessity. If the system needs your energy to stay standing, then what happens when a chosen one stops feeding this structure? That is their greatest fear. They don't just want you to keep operating within the game. They want you to do so without realizing you are being used. That's why, whenever a chosen one starts questioning, whenever someone realizes they are serving without receiving anything in return, distractions arise. The system throws new challenges, new crises, anything to keep you too busy to realize that you have the right to choose your own path. The world has been designed to test your patience, your faith, and your endurance. How many times have you found yourself exhausted, trying to move forward while everything seems to conspire against you? This doesn't happen to those who are irrelevant. You are an essential piece of this structure, but at the same time, you are a risk. At any moment, you might realize you don't need to play this game, and if that happens, others will see it too. This is how the system loses control. Not because a chosen one awakened, but because they showed others that there is an escape. That's why those who start seeing beyond the illusions become targets. They are seen as threats because they carry with them something society fears: the truth. Look at how many have been silenced for questioning. How many have been discredited for seeing just beyond the surface. Chosen ones were never easily accepted. They have always faced resistance because they represent something that goes against everything that has been taught. But deep down, even those who attack them know the truth. The world depends on the chosen ones more than they will ever admit. If everything around you is designed to keep you submissive, then how do you escape? That's the secret they will never share with you. The system doesn't want you to realize that your freedom has always been within your reach. They rely on your distraction, on your exhaustion, on your fear. They rely on the fact that after so many blows, you'll accept the minimum. But what if, instead, you decide to reclaim what has always been yours? What if you stop negotiating your energy, your peace, and your strength? What happens when a chosen one decides they will no longer be manipulated? The answer to this question is already visible. Whenever a chosen one discovers their true power, the system goes into crisis. That's because their presence was never ordinary. Their impact was never small. As long as you walk within the imposed rules, your energy is drained, your strength is used to benefit those who will never give you anything in return. But the moment you decide to step out of the game, the structure starts to crumble. They don't know how to react to someone who no longer follows the script. And that's your greatest advantage. Chosen one, it's time for you to realize that this constant pursuit has never been about watching your steps, but about ensuring you don't realize your true position within the system. They need you to stay standing. But your existence doesn't depend on them. You can continue serving unconsciously, or you can take possession of what has always been yours. The choice has always been in your hands. But the time to ignore this truth is over. If you've made it this far, it's because you've already started seeing what they never wanted you to know. The question now is no longer why they watch you, but how long you will accept being part of this machinery. The day the chosen stop serving the system, everything that has been built to exploit them will crumble. Are you ready for that moment? If you are, then the only thing left now is to act. Their obsession isn't with what you do every day, but with what you represent. The chosen one has always been an unpredictable element within a structure designed for absolute control. While everyone follows a predictable pattern, you've always been one step ahead, defying expectations, escaping the limitations imposed. They monitor because they need to understand how you work, what your weaknesses are, and how they can influence your decisions. But there's something they've never been able to understand. Your essence cannot be shaped. Many of the difficulties you've faced throughout your life weren't random. When a chosen one begins to stand out, naturally attracting attention, forces arise that try to divert them from their path. This could come from people close to you, financial challenges, crises that appear at just the right moment to destabilize you. It's a calculated cycle. They know they can't stop you from existing, but they can try to drain your energy to the max. The goal was never just to monitor, but to weaken you so you never have the strength to question or break the cycle. Control isn't physical, it's psychological. What happens when a chosen one feels exhausted? They doubt themselves. They accept less than they deserve. They conform. And that's exactly what they want. When someone realizes they are being watched, when they feel everything around them is structured to drain them, the natural reaction is caution. But this caution can be used against you. If it makes you hesitate, if it makes you doubt your own power, then they've won. It's not about preventing you from growing, but about making you believe you were never capable. The world's structure doesn't work without energy, without creativity, without innovation. And where does all this come from? From the chosen ones. They are the ones who carry within them the drive that pushes humanity forward. But there's a crucial difference. While most give everything without question, there are those who perceive the game and refuse to keep serving. History is full of chosen ones who broke the chains and changed everything. The problem is that the moment someone becomes free, they become a threat to the system itself. This is the real reason behind the obsession to monitor. It's not enough to know what a chosen one does. They need to ensure that they never cross certain boundaries. And that's why, whenever someone tries to fully liberate themselves, invisible forces spring into action to pull them back. This happens in the small things, in the everyday details, in the distractions that arise when you're about to take an important step. But the issue is that control only works as long as you don't realize the game. Freedom doesn't begin in the external world, but in the way you perceive your own existence. An awakened chosen one doesn't need to be accepted. They don't need the system's approval to validate their worth. And that's exactly what they fear. You can continue following the path they've set for you, or you can step off the script and redefine everything. The decision to break free from this cycle begins with realizing that you were never dependent on the system. It has always been the one that needed you. What is happening now is not new. This has always existed, always operated in the shadows, always drained those who had something valuable to offer. But now, the chosen ones are starting to realize the invisible chains that kept them bound are becoming visible. And when the truth comes to light, the only thing left for the system to do is try to maintain control by any means necessary. But what happens when enough chosen ones decide they will no longer be manipulated? The signs have always been present, but most people do not notice. The system works because it keeps people distracted, exhausted, and dependent. While everyone is busy dealing with everyday problems, no one questions who is behind the structure. But the chosen ones always see beyond. They notice patterns, perceive when something doesn't make sense, understand that certain difficulties don't arise by chance, and that makes them unpredictable, hard to control, impossible to tame. That's why surveillance never stops. The need for control grows in proportion to the resistance of the chosen ones. With each generation, new strategies arise to keep them distracted and weakened. Some are subtle, like the culture of normalizing mediocrity, where talent and genius are minimized so that no one notices their own worth. Others are direct, like planned cycles of crises to ensure that no one has time to think about what really matters. The goal was never to prevent the chosen ones from existing, but to make sure they never realize the power they carry. The energy of a chosen one cannot be wasted, so the system redirects it. Instead of being used to build their own destiny, it is diverted to feed structures that will never offer anything in return. Companies profit from their ideas without recognition. People drain their vitality without reciprocity, and projects are sabotaged before they can flourish, all to ensure that their strength continues to serve the purpose of others. They don't just want to monitor. They want to extract everything they can before you notice. The obsession with monitoring the chosen ones also serves another purpose: to prevent them from uniting. When one chosen one awakens alone, they already represent a risk. But when many begin to see the same pattern, the structure collapses. Throughout history, whenever individuals with elevated consciousness have connected, great changes have occurred. It's no coincidence that those who challenged the system were isolated, discredited, or even eliminated. The intent was never just to monitor them, but to prevent them from creating something that could challenge the system itself. But there is something the system never predicted: the inevitable awakening of the chosen ones. The extreme surveillance that once kept them under control began to reveal the flaws in the structure. The more they try to limit, the more evident the manipulation becomes. The chosen ones are not blind to what happens around them. The more they try to hide the truth, the more it is exposed. The very effort to prevent the awakening became the reason why more and more people are starting to see. It doesn't matter how much they try to monitor or influence. In the end, those who were designated to see beyond will always find a way. The choice was never about submitting or fighting against the system, but realizing that it never truly had control over you. The chosen ones are hunted because they represent a threat, but that threat is not in what they do, it's in who they are. And there is no surveillance, manipulation, or external force that can erase what was meant to challenge and transform. The chosen ones have never been mere observers of the world. They have always been the spark that triggers the deepest changes. The question was never whether they would be controlled, but how long the system could continue hiding the truth. Now, that farce is crumbling. What was once a secret is becoming evident. The chosen ones are awakening, and those who have always monitored them know that when this happens, there is nothing more they can do to stop the inevitable. Their obsession was never just about surveillance. It has always been about control. They know the chosen ones are not like the rest. They do not follow orders without questioning. They do not accept truths without analyzing them first, and they do not settle for less than they were meant to be. This scares them. They know that if they lose control over you, they lose control over everything. That's why they invest so much in distractions, in doubts, in obstacles. The more time you spend trying to understand why everything feels so hard, the more time they gain to continue draining your energy. The strategy has always been the same: exhaustion and wear. They cannot stop you from being who you are, but they can overwhelm you to the point where you have no strength left to claim your power. For many chosen ones, the fight is not external but internal. It is against doubt, against fatigue, against the desire to give up. They know that if they keep you busy dealing with unnecessary difficulties, there will be no time or energy to see beyond. It is a silent war, where every battle takes place within the mind. But what happens when you decide you won't play this game anymore? The answer lies in those who came before you. Every great transformation was initiated by those who dared to challenge what seemed impossible. The chosen ones were never easily accepted, but they are the ones who changed the course of history. They are the ones who, despite the surveillance, found a way to transcend what was imposed upon them. The system believes it can contain this force, but every awakened chosen one represents a new breaking point, a piece that falls off, a pillar that crumbles. How long can this structure hold when the foundation begins to collapse? The awakening of the chosen ones has already begun. The farce is becoming unsustainable. The more they try to control, the more slips away. You can see it around you. People who once accepted everything without question are now beginning to see beyond. What was once considered impossible is now becoming reality. The power they tried to hide is returning to those it has always belonged to. The only thing left now is a decision. Continue being an unconscious source of energy, or claim what has always been yours. Their fear is not unfounded. They know what happens when a chosen one discovers their true worth. What was once a target now becomes untouchable. What was once monitored now becomes uncontrollable. They always believed they could predict your steps, but they never calculated the strength you would have once you realized the truth. Now, surveillance doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you don't depend on them to exist, but they have always depended on you. The game was never fair, but now the advantage is yours. Chosen one, if you have come this far, it means you already know what needs to be done. No external force can stop you when you understand who you really are. They can observe, try to interfere, create distractions, but the control was never theirs. The time of submission is over. There is no more room for concessions. What belongs to you by right cannot be denied. And the more this truth spreads, the weaker the hold of those who have always tried to contain you becomes. The only thing left now is to act. History is being written, and the fate of the chosen ones is already sealed. Nothing can stop those who have been called for something greater. They monitor because they fear, and they fear because they know that the moment you take your true position, there will be nothing they can do to stop you. Chosen one, now that the truth has been laid out before you, there is no more room for doubt. You have always been the center of the game, the most valuable piece, the force that keeps this structure standing. But the time to be exploited is over. What was once a mystery is now a certainty. They need you, but you have never needed them. Your worth is not in what they extract from you, but in what you choose to do with your own light. And now is the EB, time to take it back. If this message resonates with you, leave a like below, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications so you don't miss any revelation like this. Comment below, because your experience might be what another chosen one needs to hear right now. Together, we create a network of strength, and every word you share strengthens this connection. Share this message with anyone who needs to hear this truth. If you want to support this work and help this message continue reaching more people, consider contributing through our Buy Me a Coffee link, pinned in the first comment. Your support allows this mission to continue, spreading this truth to more chosen ones around the world. I am grateful to have you here, contributing to this knowledge. Now, I invite you to continue this journey. On the screen, there is a video that will dive deeper into this revelation and show you aspects of your path that you may not have fully understood yet. Watch it now and allow this truth to expand within you. Thank you for being here, for being part of this change. Until the next video, and may God bless you.